Hey, welcome to the show. Welcome to the Council of Future Conflicts. My name is Scott, the proprietor of the Future Conflict channel. Today, we're talking radical left threat and India v. Pakistan, round one. Yeah, Joe, I don't know that this is going to be a real war. I mean, anybody gets blown up in the missile strikes that occurred last night probably thinks it's a real war. But I mean, this is a country of over a billion on one side and 200 and something million on the other. Maybe it's not 200 billion. Maybe it's only like 170. But anyway, the point is, there's a lot of people. And the fact that, tens of thousands of them aren't dying kind of tells me this is not what you would call real war level war. So it'll be interesting to kind of go through that. And one of the things that I want to kind of bring to this conversation, Joe, is that, if anybody who's been watching the show for a while knows your kind of take on World War III is not that it's a singular, unified war, but a series of regional conflicts, all going on at the same time. And then, so we're going to talk about that, and I'm going to link it a little bit to some fourth turning kind of stuff. So it should be pretty interesting. Joe, how you doing?
It's a splendid day. We're in the middle of the week. We're in Montana. We're getting ready for spring training week. Lots of good stuff going on. What's actually pretty awesome, and I'm not going to throw any names out there or reveal any secrets, but it's pretty cool when you get a phone call from someone and they're not just calling to tell you about how bad things are going for them. It's really just all good news. So I had one of those calls last night, and that's pretty awesome. It's kind of motivating and cheers you up, So often people in America like to outdo each other with how bad things are going. And sometimes things are going good. So it's pretty cool to hear that.
Good news sometimes is good news, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the other side is that, we were talking a little bit before the show started. And, we can get into that in here in a second. Pete, how you doing, brother?
Doing pretty good. Still kind of like going through the process of retirement, even though technically I retired a month ago. Just the paperwork of switching over a bunch of things that takes forever, which is always fun.
I
and it's also very weird not have to worry about ever going back to drill. So that's fantastic.
You can start smoking pot now.
Start.
I'm just saying.
And hey, I know. Hey, I never felt a piss test. So
My man.
So you say. All right. Watcher, how you doing, brother?
Good. Sorry. Chat. I will take the lateness today. I was up late tending to some quail chicks and then left my phone in my office, and so I didn't have an alarm. Yeah, good stuff. Glad we're here, ready to go. Very interesting show topics today, I'll add. I was researching many of them early into the wee hours.
Yeah, there's some good stuff happening. I'll be honest with you. I even think this whole Antifa thing is good news in several kind of aspects, right? Not just in one, but in several. But we'll get into that.
What's funny, Watcher, about you leaving your phone there is we were backstage and Scott was like, "Can you try to call Watcher?" And so I did, and then you didn't answer, and I was like, "Well, I could try. It doesn't mean I can."
The irony is that he was ringing your phone, Watcher, at the same time that you literally logged into. Instead of answering the phone, you logged into the chat room. So, what I was going to mention though, Joe, is that we were talking before the show started about good news and things getting better. Sometimes we know the world's getting better, but it may not be better for us,
Yeah.
In the last 4 years, there was a significant amount of just kind of existential angst that was going on, especially within conservative communities and whatnot. And let's be honest, that drove things like people watching this show, right? Or buying your books or going to Max training classes, right? Because they didn't know, there was this uncertainty about what was going to happen, right? January 6th actually really kind of, accelerated that, right? Everybody knew that there was literally a threat from the fucking government, and people we knew, and a great example is Don, were getting fucking hemmed up over that shit. And so it's easy to sell books that make you prepare, or classes that make you prepare, or a TV or a podcast about conflict in the world when all that stuff's happening. But, when Trump gets elected, all of a sudden, a lot of the fair weather kind of people are like, oh, well, I don't have to be prepared anymore. I don't have to do all this kind of stuff anymore because Trump's going to solve everything. I'm here to tell you that ain't the case.
That is not true. Yeah. And in fact, look at the radical left's actions and all of that. It's actually going to get worse rather than better. The last time they brought a fake pandemic down on us. What are they going to do this time?
Well, I don't know that it's going to get worse rather than better, but I don't know what's going to happen, right? I still have a huge amount of unknown. It's just a different kind of unknown now, right?
Well, I don't know about that, because there are things being leaked and all that all the time about these people having these closed door Zoom meetings where they're openly talking about sedition and openly talking about armed revolt. If they're actually willing to say that on an unsecure line, what are they saying in the back rooms and private chambers?
Yeah, no, that you're exactly right. I mean, just because they're doing that doesn't mean it's going to get worse. I mean, I guess what I meant is I feel that it still could be okay, but that doesn't mean that it won't, that just because there's a better chance now than there was, say, a year ago, doesn't mean that it will be better. I think it could be considerably worse in a lot of respects. So anyway, I mean, we are in a business that leans into the idea that people need to get prepared, and if people don't think that things are bad, then they don't feel the need to get prepared. So anyway, we just want to tell you, the chat, you guys, that doesn't apply to. If you're here right now in the chat, you are somebody who realizes that the world is a very fragile and tenuous kind of place, and so you're doing things like listening to this channel, and you're doing things like buying Joe's books, and you're doing training courses, and you're doing things to to connect with your community and to make sure your family is ready when bad things happen. So thank you. We just want to kind of say this isn't like a come on to, this is a opportunity for us to say thank you to the chat and to everybody who shows up for the show. We really appreciate you guys because we know, there's a lot of things else you could be doing. So you're waking up early in the morning with us and checking this stuff out. Okay, guys, let's jump right into the first one here. So, Joe, we talked about this quite a bit, and Pete, I don't know if you were. I can't remember if you were on the line for when we were talking about this Gaza stuff, the Gaza pier.
Oh yeah. I mean, I followed it quite well, especially with John Conrad, all his criticism of it.
Exactly. It was so the system's called JLOTS, and it's basically the modern version of, what was it, the Mulberry piers or whatever they used in World War II. And there's a lot of solid stuff in this JLOTS. This is something that they've used here in Korea for a lot of years. But the problem is it's all about using the right tool with the right training at the right time and the right place, right? And the problem is that politics push the Biden administration to push the DOD into using JLOTS in a place where it should never have been used. And, it literally forced people who are not trained and ready to do the mission to do it in environmental conditions that it's not designed to operate in. So there's a lot wrong with how they did that, and there was and it showed in the execution. So first thing we're going to talk. The first story today is this Army Times story that says ill-fated Gaza pier mission lacks sufficient training equipment, according to the IG. President Joe Biden announced so this was in March 2024. President Joe Biden announced the U.S. would create a new pathway for international aid into war-torn Gaza, a floating pier system operated by the Army and the Navy known as JLOTS, or Joint Logistics Over the Shore. Later that month, construction was underway on the pier, but it was unceremoniously shut down for good in July, having spent only 20 days active amid equipment failures and insurmountable sea conditions. Now, a new report from the Department of Defense independent watchdog reveals just how ill-prepared the military services were to build the floating pier. You know, guys, there are ways you could have done this operation, you know.
Well, fine, but like, you know what's insane to me is that we have the equipment, we have troops that are assigned to this, we have literally hundreds of thousands of miles of shoreline, including inland lakes that don't get the tidal action. And we haven't been practicing this 24/7 for the last 20 years?
No, we have been practicing. The problem is that, you know, the solution, I think, this is just my take, not anybody else's take. The solution is, you know, there are visible solutions and there are less visible solutions. And I think the politicians wanted a very visible solution so they could point to it and say, this is a symbol of what we're doing. This pier is a symbol of our support for this situation. And the problem is the conditions did not allow for the correct deployment of the JLOT system. Or it wasn't resourced properly. Like, you know, maybe there are some components or aspects of it that they didn't do, or, you know, maybe anyway, the point is that I think they pushed for a solution that was not the correct solution given the scenario. Does that make sense? You know, Watcher, I mean, I hear what you're saying, and I know for a fact that they do train JLOTs frequently. But
it's just 11 exercises in the last decade.
I feel like half of them are here in Korea too.
I'm sorry, that's 11 in a decade.
Well, hey guys, I mean,
I'm sorry. This is
exactly
that I've been preaching for a long time. This comes from the mentality that generals have told themselves that amphibious actions just aren't going to happen again, guys. We're just never going to do amphibious actions again because they're too dangerous.
There's a long history. Real quick. There's a long history of this, and I'm going to refer to some military history here. Joe, you were around back during the Bosnia thing. I mean, you didn't take part in that. You didn't take part in the original Bosnia thing. You came in Kosovo later, right?
Correct.
Well, if you remember back, what was it, 94? You know, we got the go code to go into Bosnia and sort this shit out, right? And they basically pushed in, and they had to create a bridge over the Sava River, and it fucking flooded, and the bridge failed. And basically it was just a big fucking failure, and generals got fired over that. No generals got fired in Iraq and Afghanistan, but they got fired in Bosnia because they weren't able to bridge this this river. And fair, right? It was a training issue, and it was also a really bad situation with the flooding, right? And so this is the exact same thing, right? This is something that they're nominally trained to do, but, you know, as Pete just mentioned, you know, they don't train it enough. You know, they may train the pieces much more frequently, but not the whole fucking thing, you know, at scale, except for maybe once a year or something like that. So it's absolutely unconscionable that this is something, A, from a political end, and B, from the military end.
But Watcher's right, and Big Army thinks there's never going to be an amphibious landing again. The Marine Corps started a crash course in the last 5 years in getting back to amphibious routes, because throughout the entire GWAT, we didn't do anything amphibious. The last amphibious landing was Basra, right?
Basra, that's exactly right.
Because all the big brain people told us that with drones and with missiles that it would be too dangerous to ever attempt it again. But the fact is, okay, dangerous, still have to do it.
Yeah. Let me dive into this story a little more. So a new report from the Department of Defense independent watchdog reveals how ill-prepared the military services were to build the floating pier in Gaza. It found, amongst other things, mission planners failed to identify environmental factors, such as beach conditions and sea states likely to affect the success of JLOTs. Army and Navy equipment was not interoperable and caused damage when combined. The cuts to training and resources further challenged the operation's success. The DoD Office of Inspector General reported on Friday recommends that the creation of a new working group focused on JLOTs. A report to the Defense Secretary, the Joint Staff identifying gaps in its capabilities, and better communications between services, particularly through the U.S. Transportation Command, which coordinated the mission. You know, guys, like a lot of the systems that we use nowadays, they were developed initially during the Cold War when people actually fucking spent a lot of time thinking about how to do this shit, right? And the problem is you got this great system that they come up with, but then when you don't train it and you don't plan it and you don't use it and you let parts of it and you stop funding parts of it, or you can't just pull it out of the box and expect it to work.
Well, I think that's the problem. The majority of these injuries were crush injuries from being not familiar with how to operate around two giant pieces of floating asphalt. Right? You might realize there's some crush potential and injury there. So we need to actually get out and train with this stuff more often. We never have done it. So.
Yeah. Pete, I mean, you've been around the Army a minute. I mean, this is a typical thing that you see, I think, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, like I said, it's a failure in what is called intelligence preparation of the operating environment, or it used to be battlefield, or just really piss poor mission analysis. You want to talk about an abbreviated mission analysis, I guess, plan or whatever. This is the perfect example of it. That was obviously politically pushed by the administration, knowing that it wasn't going to work. But again, did anybody within the chain, within the DoD, actually push back and say we can't do that?
Yeah, I mean, and that's just it, right? The problem is that when your staff officers are not educated enough to even be able to say they don't know that they can do it, or you know what I mean? It's like, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, and also, like, how many people within the DoD down to a certain level actually knew that we had this capability?
J-Sup says, kind of like pulling valve things or nods out of the books. Yeah, kind of like if you've got a great valve thing but don't know how to use it, it doesn't fucking matter if you have a valve thing or not. It's as much a training thing as anything. Thank you for making this point that I will make later in the show.
They back in, I guess, like the height of GWAT, there were so many training environments laid on to units, especially in the Guard, that there was more training hours than there actually was at, like, man hours. So,
hours in the day, 100%. Yeah.
And so, like, that's what you have, is like you have so many varied requirements to cover every piece of minutia, but when it comes down to actually doing your job, there's no time for that.
Random PW guy 84 for $10 over in the Rumble chat says, do you guys think airborne mass attacks are still viable with proper seed for the Air Force and DZ prep fires? If we still think amphibious ops are viable, what about paratroopers? I think they're viable. That being said,
we conducted them throughout the GWAT, and they are still viable.
Yeah. But here's the thing. It's like anything. Like the M1 tank is the same. Asking if the M1 tank is still viable is just like asking if paratroopers or JLOTs is viable. It is, with the correct training of the equipment and the tactics to make sure you can employ it correctly. But like anything that we do, it's not an end all be all. It's part of a system, right? Like you send a tank in, you have to have all the supporting elements in order for that tank to be able to do its mission.
You have to have the right tool for the right job. So classic example is Punta Patilla Airport in 1989. We sent a platoon of SEALs to do a job that would have been better done by a company of Army or Marine infantry, right? And the SEALs got parts of their anatomy handed to them, quite
Yeah,
literally.
when they try to use SEALs like Army Rangers, it doesn't work because they're not Army Rangers. Yeah,
right. And
during
you just got the right tool. Yep.
Now let me give you the perfect example of when a tank is viable and when it's not. Right, every tank is viable when the other guy doesn't have a tank. Okay, let me give you an example.
Urban environment.
Well, yes, but let me give you an open field environment, right? And we're seeing this right now in Ukraine. 2 tanks coming across an open field, a squad of infantry, only 10 guys with no anti-tank weapons in trenches on the other side of the field. But what they do have are 3 drones. One's an observation drone and 2 RPG equipped, FPV drones, right? Those guys can send those FPV drones in, get in behind the tanks, and take them out because those 2 tanks don't have anything else around them to protect them. Now, if they've got a company of infantry behind them that can then shoot with just regular rifle marksmanship, shoot those FPV drones down, then they're covered, right? Because they're using combined arms. The key is combined arms in almost everything you do.
And that's why they're pushing like ADA platoons and so forth down to low levels,
to the battalions,
to the maneuver elements. Yep.
But yeah, so anyway, that's a long answer for a short question. I hope that answers it. Yes, I think that airborne mass attacks are still viable.
I think too that even in a counterinsurgency role, they are. The Rhodesians showed us the way with the Mike Force operations, where whenever a unit made contact at any element size, they would drop a squad of airborne troops on the other side of the contact and trap the insurgents between them. So it can be done. Yeah, it's still viable.
Now here's the thing. Here's the but on the asterisk on that. As you start to have the mass attack is all about like coming in at 800 meters and dropping troops literally at 800 meters. So at 800 meters, you're very vulnerable to man-pad type weapons. And as man-pads become more and more prevalent on the battlefield, then it gets harder to do. So what does that mean? That means then you start doing it at night, right? Or, you have to be very specific in how you do seed, so that you're specifically isolating areas where man-pads could be employed near the DZ, right? 800 feet, my background. Yeah. Not 800 meters, 800 feet. That's right. And if I remember correctly, they went into Afghanistan. That initial Ranger drop that they did into Afghanistan, they did it 500 feet, if I remember correctly.
Oh, the one that was right after the Marines drop on Kandahar. Yeah, I remember that.
You're
talking
about the airborne drop? I don't know. Did
we did? Marine Corps did an airborne drop from CH-53s. Marine recon.
Oh, but yeah, it was Special Forces though. Special Forces went in before that too. Yeah. I'm talking like this was C-130 mass attack, or actually, I think it was a C-17. But yeah, it was at 500 feet. That's fucking crazy. All right. Joe, one of my favorite stories of like the beginning of Afghanistan was a SEAL, right? I think he was with 3rd Group. Anyway, I talked to him a couple years later. He's like, he was one of these dudes. He was walking around. He was like 240, like he's like 6'2", like jack, like a linebacker kind of guy, right? And he said I was always pretty lean, until I went to Buds and I was pretty lean and I could run and I was a cardio monster. He said, but once I got in a team, it was all weight rooms. It was just like, cardio was not gone, but it was like, it was sacrificed for bulk and strength. So he says he goes in like at about 2:30, he goes in to Afghanistan, and this would have been within weeks of 9/11. And they were some of the first SEALs that went in. And he said, when they came out, he was down to 170. He said,
"Oh wow,"
because he just lost that much muscle mass because they were always going, and it was just calorie deficit, and it was just He said the thing that killed his muscle mass was the fact that he's never lifting heavy stuff. I mean, it was like rucksacks and things like this, but it was just like walking forever, right? You know, it was just miles and miles and miles. Anyway, but anyway, they show up, they make the link up with the Northern Alliance forces, and like the guy that they walk up to is like an American soft guy of some kind of like a Ron type guy or somebody like that, who's like, hey, glad you can make it, you know.
And that guy showed up in a pickup truck, right?
And he's been there for, you know, it made it. He didn't say this, you know, because I guess it was classified, but he said basically that he implied that the guy was there before 9/11, which I guess doesn't surprise me. But anyway, all right. I think that's all the J-Lots I want to talk about. By the way, I did look it up, and it was developed in the 70s and the 80s. So like all the good shit that we have now, it was developed in the Cold War.
Yeah, the big five. Yeah,
all of it. Yeah, all of it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what the program was called, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, but it's all the like logistics are the same way.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that you see all the time now that you didn't have back in the Cold War was the LMTVs.
Yeah, they're getting rid of those too. They were, I guess. I don't know. A lot of programs are getting cut.
No, the LMTVs.
Well, I'm saying they're going to like some sort of common truck chassis thing.
No, you're talking about the JLTVs.
Oh, okay.
That's the MRAP, the little baby MRAP that they were replacing the Humvees with. Now they're going to go to the infantry vehicle.
I got it. Well, I got a connection in Army acquisitions, and he just tells me like all the stuff that's going on. It's pretty funny, to be honest. Oh,
I tell you what,
funny, haha, sad.
I don't want to get into too much detail about this because I'm in on anything, but I'm just very happy with a lot of the changes that I'm hearing coming out of the Pentagon. So, all right, moving on. So I skimmed this article. It's not long, but I thought it was just really interesting, and I thought it could give us some things to talk about. Damning confession. China expresses outrage over CIA recruitment ads. Anytime they get pissed over something the CIA is doing, you're probably over the target. Chinese government on Tuesday belatedly responded to a CIA releasing a pair of videos last week, which encouraged officials in China to leak secrets to the U.S. Wait a second. Hunch the Dirty Roofer gifted 5 subscriptions. Thank you, brother. Appreciate that.
Imagine the irony of China being mad about someone recruiting spies in their country.
I know. It's so. I mean, this is why I when I read this line, I was just kind of like, oh yeah, I want to talk about this. The timing of the spat is sensitive given the course of ratcheting. You think maybe this doesn't have something to do with the other things that are going on? This administration is better about coordinating things like this than other previous ones. Let's say the timing of the spat is sensitive, given, of course, the ratcheting of the trade war in the wake of Trump's Liberation Day tariffs, with Beijing being the biggest punitive target. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson blasted the videos as clear evidence of the CIA stealing other countries' secrets. Well, okay. And a damning confession of how U.S. intelligence operates. The U.S. not only maliciously smears and attacks China, that is really funny, but also blatantly deceives and lures Chinese personnel to turn to its side. Wait a second. Almost like they do, like with every ethnic Chinese person who gets in any kind of critical position. And by the way, they don't just try to lure them into doing it; they coerce them to do it. And even directly targets Chinese government officials, like you guys do with Fang Fang and things like that. All right, that's cool.
The 1,000 talent program. We could go on literally for years.
Well, the irony is just fucking, this is like bordering on Schadenfreude, if you ask me.
It's something.
So let me reach out to my resident Intel weenie here, Pete.
Yep.
What's your kind of take on this? I mean, because you've got a little more insight in some of the CI stuff that was going on against China, and what's your kind of take?
So, I remember this article came out last week or something like that about how the CIA is trying to step up efforts to recruit in China, but what is kind of left out of the whole discussion is the 2010 just absolute dismantling of the CIA Chinese espionage rings because of various reasons, everything from compromised communications to just a mole within the CIA. And so
I think all of them are summed up under incompetence, though. I think all of them are summed up under incompetence, though.
Yeah.
Right?
So, but it tells you is that it tells you two things. One is, China is kind of pissed that we kind of are blatantly saying this, but it also shows that we have a lack of internal intelligence or human coming from China. So that's an issue, right?
Yeah.
And so it's difficult to the leverage that the CPC has over expats in the States is a lot different than the leverage that we have over anybody within China. And until that balance is ever shifted or changed or whatever, then we're always going to run a deficit in any type of human collection.
Like I heard, from sources that were fairly high up, like at, like national asset level kind of sources in the news, were basically saying, hey, before Xi, we had like people's phones and we knew what was going on and we could monitor kind of what was going on inside the inner workings of the CCP. Now with Xi, he doesn't talk to anybody. It's
they changed their comms.
They changed their comms up, but ultimately, even the comms they do have don't. It's like he's just different. He, he speaks to people in person.
Yeah.
He doesn't do and so so they are. Yeah, right. Whatever, right? Low tech solutions to high tech problems. Something Joe's been kind of harping on for a long time. It's shockingly effective.
Well, I mean, I go back to the method that a lot of early terrorist attacks was used to plan, especially I think involved in 9/11, was they couldn't figure out how they were communicating until they were able to look at the actual email accounts of these individuals, and they were communicating through their drafts. Nothing was being sent, but everything was being saved internally on the drafts.
Yeah. I do that actually.
Smart man.
But I do it for convenience, not for security. But all right. So let's get back to this. This is a serious violation of China's national interest and a naked political provocation. The condemnation added. The CIA was not just targeting China with invitations to spy posted to its official social media accounts, but last year similar videos were made focusing on luring Russians, North Koreans, and Iranians to be targets of CIA recruitment. But let's go down a little further. They got the video here. Let's look at this video. I'm kind of curious to see what's got the China's panties all in a bunch. If it's in Chinese, oh yeah, it's got English subtitles, so that's fine. Let's. 谢谢爷爷，是。
人生，可惜我是为他人之梦。这场梦中，我无法决定结局，我的命都由他人掌控。这辈子努力耕耘，最终都是他人做主。照理来说，中规中矩，努力低头做事，应该换来美好人生。但怎么，好像只有少数人能得到这种美好？当真相摆在面前时， 我还能装多久？这种例行的自我检讨，只让人感到荒谬。众所皆知的秘密是，领导们口口声声说要让人民过上好日子，但结果却全不是这么一回事。人一生辛辛苦苦，就是希望能求得一个岗位，踏踏实实的过下去。如今，这样平凡的人生目标已遥不可及了。我不过就想平平安安的过日子，这要求并不过分吧？这一生这么努力工作，难道到头来都是为了别人而做？我能铺我自己想走的路吗？从小到大，党教育我们，只要勤奋地遵从领导指定的道路，就会前途无量。原本应该大家分享的这一片天，如今只剩少数独享，让我不得不开创自己的路。做与不做，答案昭然若揭。不能再站在原地不动，我拒绝躺平。要迈出第一步，才是最艰难的。是时候该构筑我自己。
Yeah, the first step to treason is always hard.
So, I mean, that's actually a pretty slick ad, right?
I want to know who produced it because it had a falling down vibe to it, right? The guy in the short sleeve white shirt carrying his briefcase just trying to get through life. It was literally falling down, but in Chinese right there.
Yeah. And somebody else is always getting the, getting the fruits of his labor. And then, the only thing that it didn't have is that it didn't have a like a fall at the end, like where the guy's like literally thrown away, because that's the kind of the obvious step, because people in China see it all the time. You're just thrown away at the end of your life and you're just like, there's nothing. Pete, that if you were Chinese, that'd make you want to spill your guts to the CIA, wouldn't it?
Yeah. It was like, just made me think exactly of like every technique pulled out of the TARP brief, the threat awareness and reporting program, like anything, any type of indicator that would be used for identifying a possible insider threat. So yeah.
The other problem is the difference in punitive actions. If we catch a Chinese national here spying for China, they get 3-4 years in prison and get sent home. If China catches a Chinese national spying for the U.S., they kill them.
Yeah, right. That's exactly right. Or they get, if a Chinese, citizen living in America decide, is on a green card or something like that, hell, they may just get deported.
Yeah. That's not the same case in China, right? They will hold you.
Yeah, because they don't have due process. They just they throw you in prison first and then they investigate.
Yep.
And then if they want more information from you, then they just put a gun to your head and say, tell us everything. And you end up making shit up in order to get the gun out of your head. Random PNW Guy 84 says, in 6 months, the Chinese should do a video about something. The CIA should do a video about something to the effect of, we have asked Chinese patriots to answer the call, and we have heard you, whether the recruiting worked or not. Yeah, and then they need to start doing a lot of fake, like VPN traffic, like, going into and out of China, just to so they're chasing their tails.
There's also another difficulty in penetrating Chinese networks. So it's very easy to come over here and launch a honeypot because American men will listen to any woman who talks to them. That's not so in China. You can't run a honeypot operation on Chinese people because they are the most xenophobic and racist people on the planet. They don't like anyone but the Chinese. So it's a lot harder for us to operate in China than it is for the Chinese to operate in America.
You just have to get Chinese honey to do it with.
Correct.
All right. So anyway, go at the bottom of this page. I guess somebody in China made a U.S. version of the exact same ad. Basically, took the same script, put it in English, and put an American guy like doing stuff at a computer and stuff like that. So I thought that was kind of funny too. You know, we laugh at the trolls who try to troll us because, you know, if it's funny, it's funny. All right, moving on. On to speaking of like dreary existence and places I don't want to live, Spain. Crimes of rape have tripled in 6 years across Spain. It's almost like they have some of the same problems that everybody else has with immigrants. Spain is having an alarming rise in sexual violence over recent years, culminating in a record number of rapes, which reached 5,206 incidents in 2024, according to new official stats from the Ministry of the Interior. With an average of 14 rapes per day across the country, the figure nearly triples the 1,878 cases reported in 2019, when 5 daily incidents were reported. The upward trend has remained consistent year over year since 2018, aside from a brief dip during COVID. COVID was an anti-rape therapy, I guess. Regional breakdowns showed that communities like Catalonia, Madrid, Andalusia reporting the highest numbers, although increases have been noted throughout all regions of Spain. Cases involving minors, nightlife-related assaults, and attacks perpetuated by groups of offenders are also on the rise. The grim reality presented by these numbers translates to women being raped every hour and 45 minutes in Spain. Remix News reported November last year that La Razón report that 91% of those convicted of rape in Catalonia were foreigners, with immigrants comprising just 17% of the region's total population. So you got a minority that's 17% that's causing 91% of a certain type of crime.
Despite being only.
Yeah. Where have I was going to say we have had similar issues with shockingly similar statistics. When it comes to sexual assault and rape, 64.2% of inmates are foreign nationals. As reported by El Español, the rapid increase in sexual violence has overwhelmed specialized police units, such as the Family and Women's Care Units of the National Police and the Women's Minor Teams of the Civil Guard, both reporting understaffing and resource constraints. Officers within these units indicate they are working beyond capacity, often handling a significantly higher workload than decades ago, while adequate support training without adequate support training or compensation. Initiatives such as the only yes means yes law, designed. Okay, I mean, like a guy who's gonna. I mean, this is not about date rape. This is about like full on like brutalized, you know.
By the rape gangs of in the UK.
India?
The
grooming gangs.
Grooming gangs, yeah.
Well, the grooming gangs are different, right? They're literally socially engineering this to happen, right? Whereas it sounds like what's going on in Spain is much more similar to what's happening in Germany and even like in India. You know, you've got this real problem with gang rapes and things like this in India.
And speaking of, what nation to our north is importing and creating a very strange or distorted sex ratio? Canada. Canada's important. You know, a lot of the Indian males are skewing the sex ratio.
I have some bad news for you. So are we?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I'm just
let's see. Let me kind of. Police unions, however, have cited multiple factors contributing to the trend, including what they describe as influence from cultures that undervalue women. I wonder what cultures undervalue women. Deteriorating social values and growing youth gang violence. Wow. All these things point to like a single problem almost in Europe. The unions called for preventative measures such as education on consent and bolstering police resources to cope with the epidemic. I wonder if that means, like, if we just, dropped flyers in Afghanistan right after 9/11 and said, hey, let's just all get along. I wonder maybe that would have worked.
That probably would have solved it all.
It probably would.
Have they considered don't rape people pamphlets? Maybe.
Yeah. Well, I think they tried that, and then they basically said, "Listen, you can have sex is all you want. They just have to say yes." Here, all you have to do is hear yes, and then you can go. Here clearly the problem is, I mean, we're being kind of tongue in cheek about this and sarcastic and whatnot, but it's a serious problem, and it's one that we're seeing echoing all throughout Europe, and let's be honest, even in various other ways in places like the U.S. And specifically, though, in Europe, it's Muslim migrants, the colonization of Europe by Muslim migrants.
And remember how they think of it too. To them, it's not colonization. To them, they are retaking formerly Muslim lands.
Well, specifically in Spain, that's correct. Stevie J says, have they considered Reconquista 2, the Muslim Boogaloo? Maybe that's what's happening right now. It's the Muslim Reconquista.
We talk a lot about the Reconquista here, but let's remember the original context. It was the reconquering of Spain by Christian forces.
Right.
So,
right. This is, and this kind of goes to the whole kind of lie about Islam being the religion of peace. This is a religion of peace that's literally been at war the entire existence of it. If they're not fighting for external control or external kind of propagation of their own religious point of view, and not just religious point of view, but also cultural, tribal points of view. Because there's a lot of stuff that is just normal in Muslim countries that has not in the Quran, that is supported only by, like, for instance, honor killing is a great example. Like, that's not something that you can really find in the actual, the Quran. It's in the hadiths, and then it's part of tribal cultural norms in Muslim countries, and they just think, well, that's Muhammad talked to us, he gave us the Quran, so we can just do whatever the fuck we want.
Interestingly, I had heard in several places that actually, sorry, my train of thought just derailed at the station. I'll see if I can pull it back together.
Joe, any thoughts on this and how it kind of might apply to us?
Goats most affected. I think that if you look at Islam's history with the world, it matches exactly Muhammad's history with his neighbors. So when Muhammad wrote the Quran, it was all about peace and all that because he didn't have an army. Once he got an army, he began issuing the hadiths, and then things have gone bad from there. When the Muslims enter your country, they're very peaceful and meek, and they talk about inclusion, and they claim to be a minority until they gain enough strength, and then they become militant and violent and cause this sort of conflict. It's the entire history of that religion rolled up in one. It's just the way it is.
That was it. It was the I see a lot of people bringing up religion of peace, and I think people need to understand that, like, this is one of those things where people are tapping the side of their nose when they say it, because it is unironically self-referred to. Like, the peace that's referred to in the religion of peace is the peace that will be provided once they kill all everyone else.
Let me give you a perfect example of that. I'm dropping a link in the private chat here. One of my favorite kind of follows on, because he absolutely makes most political Islam look really stupid. Is the Imam of Peace. He's a Iranian. He's Persian, but he lived in Australia because the Iranians wanted to kill him because he basically was dropping too many truth bombs on them from the standpoint of an Islamic scholar. And so his tweet here says, "This is Muslim Brotherhood in its rawest form, unfiltered and unapologetic, spreading its terrorism and inciting instability across the region and within the faith. Rest assured, the leadership of the UAE and the Grand Mufti will not tolerate such barbarism." And so this guy's a UAE kind of thing, and I'm not full on with the UAE, but at least UAE just wants to buy things. They don't want to go in and invade. Well, wait a second, they did invade Lebanon. I mean, Yemen. Anyway, he says. So what this guy says. If now play the video here, and I'll read the subtitles because this guy is just. This is the Muslim Brotherhood, and this talks about the duties of what it means to be Muslim. Right? He says, unfortunately, Arab and Islamic countries like Egypt, Morocco, and UAE. I'm having to welcome Zionist tourists whose hands are soiled with blood. They are on leave from the army these days during Passover holiday and cross into Eilat to Egypt through the Taba border crossing. They enter Egypt safely. They welcome in luxury hotels in Sharm el Sheikh and otherwheres in the Sinai. Similarly, tens of thousands were welcomed into Morocco, even though they are Zionist soldiers whose hands are soiled with their brother's blood. Egyptians have a duty to kill them. This is what the Muslim Brotherhood is all about. They have a duty to kill them. This is like we were talking about, like what Watcher was saying about the peace only comes after we kill all these people. The Moroccans have a duty to kill them. Their duty, this is their duty because these are the blood-shedding murderers, not civilian tourists. Let's see. And then, so anyway, that is literally the Muslim Brotherhood is kind of the modern font of political Islam. The problem now is that there is no other form of mainstream Islam than this Wahhabist, Salafist, Sufi kind of stuff on the Sunni side, and then on the Shia side it gets even worse with what is it, the 12th Imam and all this kind of stuff, and all the Ali worshippers and whatnot. What do they call those guys, Joe? And the Shia Islamists that are all kind of apocalyptic. I can't remember.
I don't. The 12ers.
Yeah, the 12ers. Anyway, like that, and that's all. Like the IRGC is rife with those guys,
Someone's bringing up that this is also beginning to happen in Texas, and yes, you are correct. There is.
Those are Sikh and Buddhists, not Islamic at all.
Well, no. They're Muslims.
No. There are Islamic mosques.
The statues are talking about.
Oh, yeah. You guys, if you guys talking about the monkey statues and stuff, that's Buddhist.
We're talking about the Muslim town, the Muslim only towns that are being set up inside Texas.
That's what I was talking about.
But that's not a Texas thing. That is a all over America thing.
That's true.
It's just news in Texas. But Islamberg began in New York. There are several throughout the country and all over.
Oh yeah. You're right. It is. That's such a weird damn thing. Like,
you're talking about the monkey statue. Yeah, that's Hindu.
So weird.
Well, but see, if there is a weakness to America, it's that we allow that kind of self-ghettoization to occur that turns these into kind of these generators for radical thought.
No, interestingly, I'm not against it.
No, we're not against religious freedom. We're against religions that want to kill you. There's a big difference.
Yeah, the monkey statue, I'm not even against it. It's just I find it funny in a way that I can't even describe.
Well, the problem is not so much the religions themselves. It's the human ideas that get wrapped around them, right? And the politics that invariably take control of these religious ideas. I mean, as a Christian, I kind of think they're all wrong, but ultimately, if they're wrong, they're way more susceptible to human influence than, say, something that is more divinely inspired.
Oh my God.
I mean, Christianity is a great example. I mean, while it has been corrupted here and there throughout history, it's still pretty intact. When you look at the actual Word of God versus, all the problems come from the actual churches themselves, not the corruption of the Word of God.
Listen, despite the own you think you've done there, I'm intellectually honest enough to say yes, the Spanish Inquisition was bad, just as bad as Muslim terrorism.
Bold takes only. I was just to say, how would that even be a gotcha? Bold takes only here, guys. Oof. Yeah.
What's that?
The Spanish Inquisition was bad.
Yeah, because it was a Spanish political instrument, not a religious one.
Also, before we move on, because I can't, totally off topic, but I have to thank Racing Psychosis for bringing this up. I had no idea this existed. I was here. I'm so angry at myself that I didn't get to go see this. Oh my goodness. This is in Tulsa. Yeah, this is the Tulsa Driller. I'm so mad. I had no idea.
I didn't realize you played for that team.
No, I just like weird Americana stuff.
Well, that's kind of like the what is it? The giant ball of yarn, right? Or the twine or whatever, like these types of things.
Somebody brought this up as an opposition to the monkey statue. And I love this kind of shit. This is the best. This is like the Corn Palace. I love this.
Gentlemen, it is time for our shameless promo section.
Hold on, I have to give props to random PW guy. Very good. The Spanish Inquisition was also not expected. Well done. Well done.
Tank Ferret, correct. I was not expecting the Spanish. Neither was I. All right.
You know what? Chat, you make me very happy.
You guys could hold on a second. You guys could criticize Joe for whatever you want to criticize him for, but you can't say that he is inconsistent.
This is correct.
Yeah, I just want to say, chat, you consistently make me realize that we broadcast to the highest quality chat that I've yet to find. Thank you.
But here's I think if you come back to the Constitution on almost all things, you'll be good. And here's where the Constitution wins on this, right? The idea is if you come here and you want to go to a Muslim mosque and you want to just pray on what is it, Friday that they do their call to prayer and all that kind of stuff. I can't remember, or is it Saturday? I can't remember which one it was. Anyway, the point is, actually, it's daily in a lot of places. But if you want to do your thing and then do that for the hour you're there, and then put your shoes back on, and then go home, and then be a UPS driver and not blow people up or run people over or hate people because of who they are, then great. Then that's the kind of Islam that I'm all for, right? The problem is when you get insular sects of people who use religion as a kind of a shell in order to do other things. And generally that means organizing hateful speech, these types of things. Okay, I'm not saying hate speech as in the crime. I'm talking about speech that is hateful of other people that then generates, emotional energy that then sends people out into the world to do hateful things against them. That is not okay. Your rights end where the other guy's nose begins, right? That's kind of like the great thing about what we do here in America. And to the extent that a church or any religious organization seeks to, take people's rights away from them, then that's when it stops getting protected. It's kind of like, Joe, it's like the churches in the battlefield. We won't blow the churches on the battlefield up as long as you don't fire from them. But as soon as you start firing from them, they become legitimate targets. All right. Mm. Joe. I said consistent. I can also be a consistently sensitive. I'm a modern man. He's in touch and vulnerable with his masculine side.
And look, Ron's one of my heroes, so I value his opinion. So seriously though, I'm not doing this just to smooth Ron's feathers over, but I'll be honest. One of the coolest moments is standing in Ron's whiskey lounge. Yes, Ron has his own whiskey lounge because he's that awesome. And you see Ron's wall of photos of him with various people that probably, Scott, only you and I would recognize, right? A lot of really interesting folks. And then his wall of challenge coins. Ron's room is a sign of a life well lived. So thanks for your service, Ron. Seriously.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not blowing smoke, Ron. I legitimately mean that.
And we know you like to snipe from the peanut gallery, but we appreciate the fact that you join us even from the peanut gallery. So thank you very much.
Well, he belongs to the gallery.
Yeah, that's exactly right. All right, gentlemen, let's move on to our shameless promotional plug segment. Joe, in the odds and ends, I put in some dates, some training dates that you had mentioned on X. I thought maybe you could kind of go through these and talk about some of the events that you'll be training at, and maybe some other events that you may not be at, but you want to promote for other folks.
Yeah, and since I'm running out of dates on my calendar, I should probably update it and put the rest of the year's classes on there. But maybe it's just because I'm looking at the numbers and realizing we may not have a second half of the year class-wise. Anyway, what were the dates you wanted to talk about?
Well, if you look in the show notes, it's got the. Yeah. I just listed them right there, and I just let you kind of run through them.
That's change the show notes in the middle of the class, the middle of the show. You got to tell me.
No, this is literally the first thing I posted in the show notes today.
Oh, I don't know exactly where you got that from, because that looks like
I know tweet. That's right, because I copied it from your tweet.
So I just finished up a class this weekend, combatives, where we went through unarmed self-defense and then ground fighting. Then the next day we did sticks and knives. And on the last day we did cold firearms combatives, because my biggest pet peeve in the movies is when the guy, like, his rifle runs out and he shrugs his shoulders and he throws the rifle down and then he runs away. Bro, hold on to that rifle. It still has value. So you can come to a class like that. Anyway, so I just finished that up, and we are currently registering folks for our spring training week, which is in 2 weeks. It is the 16th through the 25th. That's really about a 10-day period, which is a Friday through the following Saturday. If you take a week off plus 1 day, you can get all this training in. So the first date, May 16th through the 18th, we have NC Scout doing RTO. And I usually sit there in the back of the room and add to that and provide my input on that. We have a pretty good 1-2 show. May 19th to 21st, Matt will also be doing SIGINT there, where we take all the skills you learn in the RTO course and then flip them around and use them to gather information. That class is always eye-opening, because last year when we did this out here in Montana, we threw up a jungle antenna on CB in the trees out here, and we wound up pulling in Spanish language conversations from all over. So pretty interesting and wild stuff you learn in SIGINT. We're doing something different. May 21st to 22nd, we're going to do night operations. So that's where you're going to get out with your night vision and your thermals, and we're going to drive over to the range down the road here and engage some targets using just our IR lasers and NVGs and thermals, and really getting some trigger time doing that and getting to try out equipment. You don't have to have your own equipment. We will have plenty here for you to use. And then I'm sure there'll be some available for purchase. And I may even tell Matt that 1 or 2 of the boxes he sent here, it got lost in the mail. I don't know what happened to it. Fell off of a truck. I don't know. And then Chris from Combat Studies Group realized how much fun we were going to have, and he decided to throw in another class, Close Quarters Battle 2. If you've taken his first class, you'll be able to do the second. And I think though that others can, as long as you have a certain skill base to come out. We're going to use our giant empty lodge building over here and set up targets in the rooms. Quite frankly, the building is set up perfectly for that because it's got every possible room entry and a stairwell. So pretty cool stuff. And then I'll be running community security ops the 23rd through the 25th. Come on out and get trained. And some of it's not necessarily the class. It's just spending time together with like-minded people. And that's going to be a big piece of it. In the middle of all that, on May 22nd, Juan Gringo from Texas Border Rescue. I have the patch literally right here in my hand. So we have the very cool Texas Border Rescue patch. He's going to be giving a talk about how they ran community security ops on their ranch with all the migrants coming through. So it's all going to be cool. A lot of fun stuff. Come on out and check it out.
Very good. Yeah, I mean, there's so much good stuff happening out there, and let me be honest with you. You're not only are you going to learn something, but you're going to have a fucking great time. And the cool thing is that like once you kind of come and hang out one time, I hate to say it, but it's addictive. So you're gonna wanna try it again. So be aware. You know, you're not gonna ever. You're gonna want to keep coming back. All right, let me move into my brush beer promo here. Because I got a good one for today. I even ran it by the guys before the show started, so they gave me their thumbs up on it. All right, so as you guys know, we're talking about Antifa today in our main segment here. So we're proud to bring you another ad for our rock solid sponsor, Brush Beater Store, arming you against whatever's coming. With Antifa and their insane leftist antics stirring up chaos in 2025, smashing windows, doxing patriots, and clashing with law enforcement, it's time to get serious about secure comms. At brushbeater.store, the DM32 radio with AES 256 encryption is your answer. This rugged handheld delivers unbreakable military-grade secure voice and data, keeping your team's plans safe from prying ears. Whether you're coordinating for a neighborhood watch or staying sharp in a crisis, the DM32 ensures you can stay connected and control. Pair it with NC Scouts training courses like the RTO course, that's a radio telephone operator, to master tactical comms this year, or check out brushbeater.store/collections/training courses. So Joe just talked about a lot of those training courses. So definitely don't just buy the radio, look at the training courses, and at a minimum, buy that book right there, The Guerrilla Guide to Signals Intelligence and The Guerrilla's Guide to the Baofeng Radio. These classes will be held in North Carolina, Missouri, Montana, and other places. Use our exclusive code CFC10 at checkout for 5% on the DM32 training or any gear like ballistic helmets or night vision. Orders over $100 shipped for free. Visit brushbeater.store and lock in your security. Thanks to Matt, the owner, for standing strong with us. Matt, your support for the Council on Future Conflicts and our fight for freedom is unmatched. Thank you. Head to brushbeater.store, use code CFC10, and stay secure against the chaos. Now let's talk about Antifa.
Hey, one of those radios right here, by the way, and it is a solid radio. I did a good review of it over on Locals. And you know what's funny is in the Locals article, I said, some sad ham is going to screech about it. And they did. And it was quite humorous. They pulled that prediction. And Ron, to your comment about ones are ripping the mask off black clad Antifa goons class. I literally just said the 23rd to the 25th is a community security class, which is the ripping the mask off the black clad Antifa goons class. Anyway,
that's right.
Sorry.
Yeah, you know, taking their mask off is part of identification during a citizen's arrest. Let's see. Let's jump in to segment 1 here. Radical left threat. So, guys, the last, I feel like like Joe, you've been vindicated, and I feel like well, honestly, when it comes to India, I felt like I've got a little egg on my face because I honestly didn't think they were going to do anything. So we'll get into that in segment 2. But Antifa definitely gave us some interesting stuff to look at in the last 48 hours. So this is a story from the Post Millennial. King County public defender amongst 30 arrested after Antifa occupation of University of Washington building. Why is mine not opening? I'm sorry, guys. My it's this Cloudflare thing is giving me trouble because
they've detected you're a filthy foreigner.
Yeah, it's so weird how sometimes it works fine and other times it just like.
I'm just gonna launch a quick note. I apologize to everyone. You might hear a weird sound in the background. The chicks are now awake.
Oh, just wait till the roosters start.
Oh no, those are now outside safely.
Yeah. The chicks just dig Watcher, and they get noisy when he's around.
Yeah, they can't get enough of him.
Funnily enough, that is absolutely true for these two. They appear to have bonded. They start squeaking, and then I put my hand in there.
Nephilim were well known for their husbandry of the land.
All right. So on Monday, authorities arrested more than 30 individuals who seized and occupied the interdisciplinary engineering building in the University of Washington to protest Israel and its war against Hamas terrorists. Amongst those arrested was a King County public defender and several affiliates of the left-wing extremist group Antifa. All of them were booked into local jails on criminal trespassing charges with bail set at $1,000. You know, Joe, the fact that they got arrested is actually quite shocking.
Well, I think they didn't expect that to happen to them. They've had 4 years of a politically convenient administration who let them do whatever they want, and this is a new administration doing exactly what we suggested they do in 2020, and that was drop the hammer and drop it early, right? Put an end to this stuff quickly, and it will stop. It will stop more of these events from happening.
Well, you know, and here's what's important, right? The important thing is, even if they're minor kind of things like trespassing or whatever, get them in the system, book them, identify them, charge them, and then you can do some sort of like a easy release or whatever, you know, especially if it's a misdemeanor or something like that. But what you do is you're getting them in the system, and you're essentially starting to create a pattern, right? So when something happens in 3 weeks and they get arrested again, you could then kind of, if you then decide to call Antifa a domestic terrorist organization, you could then arrest them because of their ongoing association with a known terrorist group. You know, kind of like RICO light type stuff.
Well, I have it on pretty good authority that federal trespassing charges are quite literally the worst charges that you can have. They can lock you up for years without actual due process.
You're right.
I before we move on, I just want to say that I will be peppering in some of the results of their damage that I've been finding on X. And just from this first one, I will tell you immediately, they deserve whatever the fuck they get.
Oh, is this a CNC?
It is. I would murder someone for an hour on this bitch.
Yeah, that's like $250,000 to $500,000 just destroyed right there.
Yeah, that's fucking nuts. Let's see. It's unclear if the apprehended individuals were students or outside agitators. The King County Prosecutor's Office said in a statement that more than 24 protesters have been charged with gross misdemeanor offenses. Several of them had initial court appearances. The majority of the protesters have already been released from custody, jail records show. And then we got some
state, so yes.
Yeah. Let's see. they identified some of them by name. Let's see. One of the students arrested has been identified as a King County, or one of the individuals arrested has been identified as a King County public defender who represented criminal anti-Israel protesters in the past. The KC public defender's office declined to comment. Yeah, no shit. You know, this. If you go down a little further, watch. They've got a picture of the guy. Yeah, there he is right there. And then Taylor Hart, another individual who's taken into custody, works as a nurse at Harborview Medical Center in downtown Seattle, according to online records. So that's the next one here. I see. This is good. You're identifying these people and you're getting their faces out there. Unlike what we saw with Patriot Front, shockingly, I don't know that we ever identified any of those chuckleheads. But
Tyler Trousseau.
Well, we know him, but he's the face, right? He's the funnel.
Yeah.
Let's see. Around 5:30 p.m., a group of black-clad militants concealing their identities behind masks occupied the engineering building and hung a banner from the second floor window and featured a painting of a teenage engineering student, Shaban al-Daloud, who was killed in an airstrike in Gaza. The protesters involved in the pro-Palestinian suspended student group Super UW renamed the building after him and demanded that the university cut ties with Boeing over the company's role in manufacturing military weapons. Yes, so let's just do that. Let's see. If you want to watch it, if you want to, instead of showing the story, just start going through these videos because there's a lot of video of all this stuff embedded in the story. Yeah. Several law enforcement agencies, including the Seattle Police, Washington State Patrol, and UW Police, were conducting a joint operation to remove the protesters from inside the building that lasted for several hours. Video footage capturing. Captured by the post-millennial shows riot officers removing barricades, breaching the building, and then walking out with dozens of detained protesters. The apprehended individuals were placed in a police vehicle and hauled off to jail.
I just have to say before we move any further that even though they're masked, you can tell it's Antifa because their flag is here, the burning dumpster, the national symbol of Antifa.
The dumpster fire. Let's see. According to the police report, UW Vice President Sally Clark attempted to contact the group and negotiate a solution to the protest, turned away by protesters, but she was returned away by protesters, thus resulting in a police making arrests. In a state, here's the thing: the fact that the university said, "Yeah, go ahead and go in there and get them out," is actually a big change, right? This kind of shit would not have happened during the Summer of Love. Right. The university will not be intimidated by this sort of horrific and destructive behavior. So this statement is actually very hopeful. I mean, at least I am hopeful reading the statement. That's what I'm saying. They will not engage in dialogue with any group using or condoning such destructive tactics. We will continue all our actions to oppose anti-Semitism, racism, and all forms of biases so that all of our students, faculty, staff, and visitors can feel safe and welcome in our campus. That's a shockingly, moderate right kind of position for a university in Washington State to release. King County jail staff are working to identify the roughly 30 people who are arrested. So at the moment, we do not know how many UW students or community members. We are working with the law enforcement and through our own disciplinary processes to ensure those responsible face appropriate consequences for their action. I am not somebody who wants to to lionize any left-wing university worker or somebody like that, because these people have been absolutely fucking garbage for the last 20 years. But if this is what we could expect going forward, I'm hopeful of what we may see. All right, that's about all we have on that story. Moving on to the next one. So this is more video that we can play. This is a thread from Joe's good buddy Mario in the Fall.
It's almost as good as George Chang.
I mean, I hate to say it, but instead of being right twice a day, Mario's been right about like 50% of the time. So
No, not even close. Not even.
Mario
he's
is
just
right
reporting the
via
correct
aggregation. He literally
right. That's what I'm
just
saying.
takes
He's
any source that he finds and
putting out there, right? That's the great thing. He doesn't really have much of a story. He just says, "Look what happened. Somebody else did this, and I'm going to show you." But yeah, so play this video right here, and I want people to hear this audio.
You want to torture people with? I've been listening to this audio. You want? Oh god. So here's the funny thing: is I'm really sorry that I missed this. I didn't even realize this was happening. I even have Google alerts set for some of these things to make sure that if riots happen, I can start up a night watch. I didn't catch this until it was over.
Please clear the street.
Shut the fuck up! Shut the fuck up!
Death to the police.
That is the whitest sounding kid I have ever heard in my life.
Abolish the police! They're real strong! Every cop dead is a victory for the resistance! Every IOF soldier killed is a victory against colonialism!
All right, so Suburbs Bro just said every cop dead is a victory for the resistance. Every U.S. soldier killed is a victory against colonialism. Joe, if one,
hey man, I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Can you take the mask off because I can't hear you?
but here's the thing, Joe. If somebody had killed a cop, could you then go arrest this guy for incitement or
Look, hold on. But
terroristic threats?
Take Ferret's got this right. Somewhere there is a locker missing its nerd.
I know, right?
That dude, I'm going to point out, I was going to put it in the chat, but I'll just say it. That dude is conveniently locker sized. I'm just going to leave it there.
Well, my question is that thing over his head to protect him from the swirlies that he gets?
I think that's exactly what that's for, Scott.
All right.
Oh, I would just put him right in a locker and just leave him.
Let's see. Okay, so and then we got some more Antifa action, and I think this was the next day. So this is Andy No. There's a whole thread of these, and it's important for people to hear what these people fucking say because they are just absolutely garbage humans.
Well, they were at a Riley Gaines event, and then we're telling people they should kill themselves. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think that's this one. Yeah, listen to what they say to this black cop.
I have to say this. I'm sorry, but we are now watching a world in which leftists are supporting the frail, tiny white children, rich white children, against the disabled woman and the minority.
Yeah.
Every transphobic thing you dream.
Yeah.
You're
The
also
earth would be
spreading
so
culture
much
without a
better
mask,
without
you
you.
bitch.
You're such fucking scum. You're such a bitch.
Take your time. Don't rush on our behalf. Don't rush on our behalf.
Yeah.
Take your
Take your
time.
time.
Transphobic shit stain. Take your
Oh,
time.
Respect your elders.
Take your time.
Outside.
Our elders.
Why would we
Shit about that. You
Why
have
would
no
we
idea about that.
respect their elders
You
when
have
they're
no
old
idea about that.
bitches
Our
like
elders
this?
screwed us.
When they're
Our
transphobic
elders don't give a
bitches,
shit
they
about us.
represent
Why
no
should we give a shit
respect.
about them?
Respect is to be earned.
If you want to provide her
Oh, you
physical
thought you
safety,
could
maybe you should come between this guy and her.
Are you a pig?
And an Asian cop. Entirely
Don't touch me.
the police department. I like it.
Ladies,
Fucking
obviously,
bitch, kill
you're
yourself.
obviously harassing.
I'm
Transphobic bitch, die.
you can basically hear this person being unable to speak very well as their how do I word this? The immense effort of lugging their massive frame across this parking lot is beginning to take its toll on their ability to yell expletives.
David! Transphobic cunt! You're the scum of the earth!
Fuck you!
You're so worthless! You produce nothing!
Oh, she's still going! Thanks!
Yeah.
Woo!
Steadily
I didn't think she'd make it
along.
this far. Holy cow!
You know, every state of the nation has a disorderly conduct law.
This piece of shit!
Wait, I'm sorry. I get it. We should like disorderly conduct. They could arrest them. They could go to jail. I believe this is where a community should step in and act like a community. we mentioned lockers, and that's we can leave it at that. But essentially, these people need to be put in their place.
The only thing these people are resisting is personal hygiene.
But here's the thing. It's like I don't know that I even need to like make much comment on this because they speak so. I mean, this is the reason why freedom of speech is important, right? These people should not be told to shut up. They should be given the opportunity to let everybody know exactly what they think, because no sane individual, I'm not even saying right thinking, but no sane individual would think that this is okay behavior. And nobody that is unless you're chemically medicated or something like that would go, I want to be like those guys. Like that seems so cool. They're really taking it to that lady who obviously is a dangerous fascist with her walking cane.
What's ironic about the whole thing is the most physically fit person, not including the cops there, was the woman with the walker.
Yeah, it's true. I do want to ask though, like legitimate, serious question. What do you think would have happened to that woman if she was walking back to her car and the police officer and the other community members had decided not to escort her?
Now, me being me, I would have been tempted to intervene and walk right up and explain to those young folks that they're awfully lucky the police are there for their protection, because life would have went very differently without the cops there.
Now that you're not wrong there, Joe. I mean, ultimately, let's be honest, guys like us. I mean, I'm not saying we would do this, but guys like us would take this kind of thing into their own hands, right?
Let me correct you. I'll say it. I would.
No. I would.
Gentlemen, even Rumble doesn't allow us to advocate for specific violent acts against specific people.
I'm not. I'm advocating for self-defense.
I'm not. What I'm talking about is guys like us. Some guys like us may find out where these people live and actually go and their house burned down. Their house burned down and all their doors were nailed shut.
Like I said,
I'm going to let Jesus' brother James speak for me when he said, "When a man knows the good he ought to do and does not do it, it will count as sin for him." Well, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm just an advocate of community counseling.
Yes. I think that Blaine had a great idea in his books when he talked about social enforcement. I just think it should go another way.
All right. Let's actually real quick, Watcher, there was a whole thread there. Let's kind of go through that thread real quick, because it was more than just that one thing and that one lady that they were threatening. I mean, this is not like
I was looking down at it, and mostly what I saw after that was them walking back and threatening other older people, but the same pair of
disgenic. Well, and the other thing is to remember, this is specifically Trantifa, right? The people who showed up in protest of the Riley Gaines event that they weren't able to stop or do anything about.
Yes, and specifically they were targeting her because she attended an event by Riley Gaines.
Gaines, who is
by Riley Gaines, yeah,
right. By the way, Riley Gaines is somebody that I liked her when she was first protesting, but I never saw her kind of whole conservative arc, coming.
Yeah, I didn't see that going to happen.
So the two are like, nah, bro, we ain't no, we can't run.
Here's some of the quotes. Have you ever thought about dying today? Do it before somebody does it to you. And then
that actually is arrestable right there. That is actually arrestable.
A threat. That's right. It would see so beauty to see. Listen to this, Joe. It would be so beautiful to see your bodies hanging from the tree. This is the kind of outstanding citizenship we can see from these.
I can see the outstanding citizenship spilling over from their belt lines.
Look, that person expects me to think they're going to resist an authoritarian government, and they couldn't resist trip 3 to the old country buffet. Come
on. Let's see.
I'm not saying I'm the most physically fit dude in the world, but I'm also not claiming to be out here resisting.
Well, but Joe, you get out and out in the world and you do things, right? I mean, it's kind of like I feel like I'm a little thicker than I used to be, but at the same time, I do 9 miles every week, right? Like it's like just because I'm carrying a few extra pounds doesn't mean I've stopped getting out. Like the couch hasn't completely, cleaned my ass. The problem is people like this.
I think Braxton said it best when he was explaining something to poor young Master Sibley. He said, some people are thick but solid, and some people are thick but soft. And so that dude was thick but soft. So,
real quick before we move on to the next thing, I just want to give a shout out to Tank Farron. He's like one of the old school CG guys that I remember interacting with back in the day, and it's nice to see you in the chat, brother. Doorkickers is coming, I swear. I swear to God, it's coming. As soon as I can get Watcher to get it printed.
Well, did we get
I'm just kidding.
If we have files, I could send them on.
I know.
What's happened now that
not to talk Doorkickers in the middle of the show, but isn't Doug's? We're waiting for Doug to finish redo the print file, right? I think that's where we're at. I can't remember.
Sorry, I think my VPN rolled. You froze up.
I said.
Last time I heard, we sent the files off to Doug, and he was doing
redoing the print file. Yeah. Let me be honest with you. Doorkickers 2 has been significantly harder than the first one. If I'm honest.
Yeah. Are you ready for the dumb? Like any of you Doorkickers fans out there who are wondering where your book is, are you ready for the dumb thing that's held us up this time, and it continues to be dumb, tiny things like this? We get the file all ready. It's ready to go. It's sent off to the printer. The printer comes back and goes, "Hey, just so you're aware, it's a 1/4 inch too close to the spine." And we go, "Oh, okay, cool. We can just move it, right?" No, it turns out you have to go into the actual original files and adjust it in those original files every single page. So we have to pay an artist to go back and do that.
Yeah, it's harder than I expected it to be. I'll be honest with you. Doorkickers 1, actually, we got the print file absolutely right the first time. But the guy who did that one was a legit comics pro who had done a lot of that kind of stuff, at big companies like Marvel and DC. So, we're kind of working with Comicsgate folks who, they're all good people, but at the same time, they don't have that specific experience.
You got to start somewhere.
Well, and I'll be honest with you, I was in the States for Doorkickers 1. I'm in Korea for the entirety of Doorkickers 2, and I didn't expect to be here for this long. So that has significantly added to the time too. So these are all bullshit excuses that I'm recounting, but I don't stand on. I'm just saying it's the reasons. All right, let us continue. What do we got next? So
what we got next should begin with a question. We have an audience member who is an expert in this field. I need to reach out and get them on the show, right?
Yeah, that's right. So, Joe, we were talking about this before the show, and you said you hadn't seen this. So be prepared to be amazed. When Tren de Aragua affiliated gangbangers attack NYPD officers, a group of pint-sized punks allegedly linked to Tren de Aragua, a Venezuelan-based criminal organization and terrorist organization, I should add, were involved in a violent confrontation with NYPD officers. Joe, let me ask you this. If you arrest a minor who's a terrorist, how do you treat that kid?
How do you what?
How do you treat? So, we've got pretty strong laws that protect minors, like 12, 13-year-olds and things like that involved in gang activity and whatnot. They always used to do give the kids like a lot of the kind of ash and trash missions, because if they get picked up by the cops, the juvenile record being expunged and all that kind of stuff protects them. But when you and it's one thing to say, oh, well, he murders somebody, so we're going to try him as an adult, right? But it's another thing altogether when it's like a support mission for a terrorist organization. So if you're a 13-year-old member of Al Qaeda and you get arrested in America, like, how do they handle that? Or are they even prepared to
go away? You don't get treated as a juvenile.
Okay. So you just, even though it's not murder or something like that, you still just get the full whack.
How is it not? So if I go to write a bad check somewhere, right, and a guy in the middle of it keels over and has a heart attack, I'm guilty of murder because my actions in some way led to that. Same way here. If you're running material support to terrorism, your actions are supporting murder somewhere in the chain. So therefore, you're also guilty of the murder. So I think that's how they handle that.
Yeah, I think it's got to be the whole kind of criminal conspiracy type of thing. It's like it's all like a giant criminal conspiracy. Once again, I keep going back to, I think they really need to start using like RICO kind of stuff against organizations like Antifa.
Involves the fact that it's illegal for you to be breathing the same air as me. Because you're an illegal alien, I really don't care about your rights.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. All right, so anyway, let's go down and let's look at footage from this. Essentially what they, okay, so let me kind of read this summary here, and then, let's see. The skirmish occurred Friday evening following the night boxing match between Garcia and Romero in the crossroads of the world. Basically, it was right there in Times Square. Breaking out after a pair of officers attempted to intervene as thugs robbed a pair of teens. The law enforcement sources said at least 3 of the brutes were rounded up on Sunday afternoon, including a 12-year-old reputed gang leader. The police saying the mob is linked to the TDA through its baby-faced offshoot crew known as the Diablos de la 42 or Devils of 42nd Street. The sources say the cocky brats even flashed gang signs and posted pics on social media while handcuffed inside a Manhattan police precinct after being busted in the attack on the cops. According to the photos, the Post obtained, at least 3 of the members of the mob were already sought for a string of shocking robberies in Central Park and were caught red-handed trying to pull off another heist when 2 cops intervened. Let's watch this video, Watcher. It's actually it's right there. I mean, pretty fucking vigorous attack on those cops.
I would have given just as vigorous a response.
Well, I feel like that could have been a lethal attack, Joe. So you're able to then use lethal force in response.
You also have to realize too that the police officer has an obligation to protect his handgun. So if you're attacked by a crowd and it's just you, and there's a risk you will lose your handgun, deadly force becomes a lot easier to justify.
Let's see. So, so is this what a sanctuary city is supposed to mean? An unnamed law enforcement official says one of those kids was 11 years old when he was the ringleader of the Central Park robbery pattern. What is it going to take for some of this policy to change when you have an 11, now 12-year-old running around, or anybody committing these crimes? When is common sense going to prevail? Don't we have a moral obligation? The answer is yes, we do have a moral obligation. And the first thing you need to do is stop worrying about TDA, go down to the prosecutor's office and arrest the prosecutors for essentially neo-Marxist terrorism against the U.S. people. Then take those to the federal courthouse so we can get rid of them, and then have Eric Adams appoint new prosecutors, and then you can go after those kids. But until you get rid of the prosecutors, it's all for nothing.
Until someone grows a pair and actually does prosecute these kids as adults, it's going to continue.
It's exactly right. It's going to continue because we're basically saying it's okay when we do that. All right, let's move on to India versus Pakistan, gentlemen. I mean, let's be honest, Joe. You and I both on Monday thought this was unlikely to happen. It seemed like they were off ramping it from everything that I could see. Now, that being said, maybe India was just kind of being a little cagey about things, but ultimately, I didn't think they would do this. And at least not so. What I thought they would do is a lot more measured. This was a lot more aggressive than I was expecting. What was your kind of initial take on this, Joe?
No, I knew that there would be something at some point because too many words had been said for them both to just sit down. Somebody had to punch someone in the nose in order to get through it. But I do also think that this has a potential to simmer right down. I think that's probably what both sides plan. But there's always a risk that it goes off the rails and keeps on going.
That's just it, right? It's the whole point is the kind of law of unintended consequences. You never know what's going to happen when you start throwing lead back and forth, right? It's been interesting to kind of see how this developed, and I think maybe some of the kind of over the top nature of India's attack might have been because of that. Lost Core 23 for $10 says late gooding CFC. The boy being home has made things more complicated. Yeah, I know the feeling, brother. I mean, it's kids derail your day, but God bless them for it. All right. India confirms strikes on 9 Pakistan terror camps. Pakistan claims 5 jets shot down. No, 5 jets were not shot down, but that's Pakistan for you. India carried out airstrikes on 9 terrorist camp locations in Pakistan. Pakistan shot down at least 1, up to 5 Indian Air Force jets. Heavy artillery fire along the line of control. Pakistan's army spokesperson has said at least 8 people were killed and 35 injured. Earlier numbers suggested that upwards of 50 terrorists were being reported killed, KIA, but I haven't seen anything that actually supports that. Let's see. General Waddell suggests that unless Pakistan escalates through military actions, this likely is going to be India's full response to the recent terrorist attacks. But Pakistan will respond.
Pakistan did respond since this article has been written, by the way.
Okay, what happened? What is
they
Pakistan
responded by hitting like 7 sites inside of India. And unlike the Indian attack, they didn't just hit separatist camps. They actually hit Indian military facilities. I don't know a casualty count or anything, but Pakistan did strike back. As far as their aircraft claim, it appears to be 1 jet, 2 helicopters, and 2 drones, but that is not confirmed. If you remember the last time these guys had a little bit of a border skirmish a few years ago, both sides claimed to have shot down 5 or 6 planes, and it turns out like one Indian pilot had been shot down, and that was it. So we will have to see. The problem that we're having, for those who are wondering why we didn't go live last night, the problem we're having is getting actual footage from the region. Said part of the world where not everyone has a cell phone, and part of the world where there's no coverage. And a lot of the things that were being shared last night as footage were actually traced back to other conflicts. So most of the video you see out of these is like a shaky handheld phone with no date and time stamp and no geotagging. So you have no idea if the video is what it purports to be.
Yeah. So just a list of some of the Pakistani military responses. So of course they said that they shot down several Indian aircraft, with reports varying from 5 jets, including 3 Rafale jets, 1 Su-30, and 1 MiG-29, to an additional jet. These claims remain unverified. Of course they do. Pakistani military engaged in retaliatory actions from both air and ground. Intense cross-border shelling along the line of control. This shelling resulted in at least 5 civilians dead on the Pakistan side. Pakistan's airspace was closed to all traffic for 48 hours following the strikes. This impacted civilian aviation. Let's see. Pakistani military and government denied that the target sites were linked to terrorism, claiming that 6 civilians were struck, resulting in at least 26 deaths, including women and children, and 46 injuries.
And they the mosque was hit as well.
Yeah. Let's see. Pakistan's National Security Committee authorized the armed forces to undertake corresponding actions and rejected India's claim to targeting terrorist camps, asserting that civilian infrastructure, including mosques, were deliberately hit.
Well, you can't very well say, well, yeah, they only hit terrorist training camps because we host terrorist training camps. You have to deny that.
Yeah. Let's see what the. Let's see. Okay, so here's. I'm just going through the Zero Hedge story because it has updates. Let's see what the updates say. Let's see. It said the military actions had been met. This is India saying the military action has been measured, responsible, and designed to be non-escalatory in nature. They targeted only known terror camps. Our actions have been focused, measured, and non-escalatory in nature. They call it Operation Sindoor. Let's see. President Trump, speaking in the Oval Office, called the situation a shame. He said the U.S. tried to calm tensions with Marco Rubio reaching out to both sides. They've been fighting a long time, Trump said. I hope it ends very quickly. The Indian government says its forces struck 9 sites in Pakistan and on Pakistan's side of the disputed Kashmir region. The wild card is Pakistan's response. Yeah. So, Joe, really, Pakistan hasn't done anything big in response yet. So I still think their official response has yet to occur. Though my understanding is one of the verified jets that was shot down over Indian airspace. So using long range SAMs is what it looks like. Let's see. Pakistan said it shot down 5 jets, but I don't think that's true. Let's look. I just want to hear the Quickie Mart version of the reporting on this. If you would go down to Watcher, there's a OSINT Defender embedded X post in the story where we get to see the Indian version of because we were talking about the call centers are down because of this. Well, that's because all the call center guys are now working for the news stories, the news agencies to report all this stuff. Got to find your English speaker somewhere, I guess. Am I being sarcastic enough there?
I don't know.
Quickie Mart News. Quickie Mart News. Here we go.
I am told that Operation Sindoor is only in its first phase right now. There could be more attacks.
Look at that mustache,
could be more attacks.
I know, that's what I'm saying, man.
We don't have.
He's leaning into it.
I'm told that what we've witnessed tonight at 1:44 a.m. is only phase 1 of Operation Sindoor. This is combat operation that is currently in motion.
This is very, very important. This is extremely important news which is coming in.
Shiv, could you give us more details? I mean, when we say in the first phase, which essentially means more to come, what do we know?
Hold on. I recognize that woman's voice. Can you say "do not redeem"?
Right now about it? And
There could very well be.
yes, please, go ahead.
Yes. There could very well be more to it, Maria. I don't want to conjecture because this is a rapidly moving story, but I am given to believe that this was the first strike. Depending on how Pakistan is reacting right now, there may be more phases and more offensive strikes rolled out. You can be sure that the Indian Armed Forces are completely prepared. And also, to anyone wondering whether these are operational details being discussed, I can guarantee you these are not, because operational readiness, retaliatory action, the crossfire between both sides is a given in any escalatory scenario. The facts are as follows. The Indian Air Force, Army and Navy have conducted missile strikes at 9 sites, which we've just named, 5 in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir and 4 in Pakistan. The Pakistan side has retaliated at the line of control. There's a huge crossfire taking place on the line of control. There are aircraft in the air. There are claims about fighters being, shot down on either side. We do not have authentic or confirmed information about that. We will get to that. Remember, losses are always accounted for in any kind of military operation. India certainly does not conduct military strikes on another country, assuming that there's going to be no damage on the Indian side. So let's keep that very, very clearly in mind. But depending on the counter escalation from the Pakistan side, which, remember, has been going on since the Pahalgam terror attack, will now be factored in, and what happens next as part of Operation Sindoor will then play out. So let's be very clear, whether it is the Navy, the Air Force or the Army, all fully prepared. It's not like they fired their missiles and everyone's gone home. They are prepared for that next big thing, whatever shape or form it might take, Maria and Ankit.
All right, that's enough of that.
Private firearm
I'm
ownership.
sorry,
in
sir.
India?
I just wanted a big bite and a slushy. I'm sorry.
Right? What does private firearm ownership in India look like? One wonders.
Non-existent.
And yet I see guys that are obviously not military wandering around these ruins with AKs.
Well, I mean, just because they're wearing civilian clothes doesn't mean they're not military or police. All right. So I put a link in the private chat. If you could open this one up. This is the Zero Hedge story that's come out since the show started this morning. So it has some updates. Pakistan closes airspace for 48 hours, authorizes response to Indian attack, which ignited inferno in region. Through aerial fighting between the nuclear-armed rivals does not appear to be sustained. And ongoing at this point, Pakistan has closed its airspace for nearly all flights on Wednesday in the aftermath of the Indian cross-border strikes, which killed at least 26 people, including a 3-year-old girl, and wounded 46 people. Pakistani authorities say, based on latest revised death toll, international carriers have also canceled flights to the region. And access to social media, including X, was temporarily blocked in Pakistan amidst the assault. Heavy shelling. That's probably another reason, Joe, that we're not seeing things, because they literally shut the internet off in parts of the country. Heavy shelling is being reported along the line of control. The true casualty toll could be higher, as Pakistani militant chief targeted in the attacks on terror camps said 10 of his relatives, including 5 children, were killed. The Islamic group Jaish-e-Mohammed, or JEM, was one of the groups targeted, and its leader, Masood Azhar, said his older sister, brother, and nephew and niece were amongst the dead. Pakistan said that civilians were harmed and targeted in mosques that were hit across 6 locations. The problem with hitting a mosque in these areas is that you can't show me a mosque in a place like Kashmir that doesn't have some sort of contact or operations linked to people who are terror. Right, exactly. It's just anyway. It's just the nature of militant Islam in these areas. Mocks were hit at 6 locations in its territory, and it has the right to respond to this aggression. India said the attack 9 terror sites. 9 terror sites known as mosques. And they probably are terror sites. Pakistani Prime Minister ordered armed forces to prepare for self-defense and corresponding actions. Avenge the loss of innocent Pakistan lives. The armed forces of Pakistan has duly been authorized to undertake corresponding actions in this regard. Guys, here's the problem: both Pakistan and India's militaries are not ready for this fight, not in the least. This is going to be the more they fight, the bigger of a wake up call this is going to be in both countries as to how incompetent their national security establishment is. It's only going to get worse. India has dubbed Operation Sindoor is intended to be limited. Indian leaders have said that it's highly questionable whether it was a success. So the thing is that as soon as Pakistan hits back, then it's going to start being tit for tat unless somebody off ramps. Because Pakistan will be able to come up with some probably fairly effective methods of response as well. Joe, I mean, what do you think Pakistan may do to hit back?
I think they're going to try to hit Indian artillery positions along the line of control, probably a checkpoint or two, just enough to say that they did something, right? I don't know that they're going to go all out. They're saying a lot of words, but I don't really think that they want, like you said, they don't really want this fight.
Lance Corporal Veteran for $2 says Indian gun ownership is regional. Then for a second one for $2, he says Indian gun ownership is gun type and caliber limited. Yeah, it seems like I remember hearing something like things that are military calibers like 5.56, 7.62 are completely restricted, but like Wazoo sporting calibers, like for hunting rifles and things like that.
But I imagine there are millions of Lee Enfields just sitting around in that region.
Oh, I bet there's millions of fucking AKs in both countries just hanging out in Dad's closet,
AKs and Mosins, yeah.
Let's see. India has hailed the operation as an appropriate response. According to a regional source, during and shortly after India's strikes on Pakistani terror camps, all flights from Islamabad and Lahore were diverted to Karachi airport. Kind of looking down through the story. Let's see. So these are all kind of quotes from sources, right? Let's see. Below are some notable quotes from Pakistan Prime Minister Sharif in his emergency address to the country's parliament. Let's see. Indian media and politicians were made this out to make basically went on to make false accusations against Pakistan related to the terror attack. They tried to show the world that, God forbid, Pakistan is behind the incident. I said at the time, Pakistan has no linkages with this incident. And I went on to say that but here's the problem, incompetent, corrupt government like Pakistan, the right hand has no fucking idea what the left hand is doing. And just because he says that he and his people aren't involved doesn't mean somebody at the ISS wasn't giving, direct support to, LET, who has been widely linked to that attack.
ISI, but yes.
Yeah, didn't know what I said?
You said ISI.
ISI, yeah.
Literally nothing to do with this.
That's true. Let's see. Last night, India had in all 80 jets, with which they attacked 6 places in Pakistan, including 2 in Kashmir. Pakistan side was completely ready. Our jets did not leave our airspace. The moment India's side released payloads, we engaged their jets and shot 5 Indian jets, some of which fell in Indian-occupied Kashmir and 1 in Bithynia. So yeah, guys, that is where we're at right now with there's some interesting kind of Pakistan used Chinese long-range air-to-air missiles, PL-15Es, against India. Parts of the missile fell in Punjab, and there's images of the missile body parts. in the post. I think it'll be interesting to see kind of when this all shakes out, what kind of equipment they were using and what was effective and what wasn't. I think what we'll find is that it'll be fairly consistent that that Chinese weapons are very I don't know. They brief well, but the QA/QC is not really great on Chinese weapon systems. Let me go down. Let's see. Yeah. So the next one. Let's go to this Vicegrad story here. This the X post in the show notes. I thought this was interesting. Basically they're saying that Pakistani army soldiers are attending the funeral of 3 Lashkar-e-Taiba LET commanders killed in yesterday's missile strikes. LET is an Islamist terrorist group, and yet these commanders are buried with state honors. So they're being buried with Pakistani flags.
Nothing says we don't support state terror like attending the funeral of terrorists who you sponsor.
Well, now here's the thing, right? And the only thing that I would say from the standpoint of a media, I don't know, analysis role is nothing in this proves to me like this was a funeral that took place yesterday. Now it says at the bottom that this was broadcast on television on 7 May, so that's pretty indicative that maybe, yeah, in fact it was, but still, I mean, like, I just don't know that this is what they're saying it is. Like, I don't speak the language. I don't, this is kind of a trust me, bro thing. Now, that being said, I absolutely believe that this is real. That's just my belief. That's not because I have any absolute evidence of that. And then the next post has the pictures of the 3 commanders who were killed, and yes, they look like terrorist commanders. Was shocking. Big beards, funny hats. That's pretty much the.
Did they sing the AK-47 song?
Well, not anymore. They're not. They're now burning in hell. Let's see. Let me go to the next one. So anyway, I want to kind of connect all this stuff back together. Yeah, see, I'm telling you. Big beards, funny hats. Joe, I want to connect all this, and we don't have to go too in depth on this because we're at the 2-hour mark. But I think this is important to kind of like tie in not only what's happening in the U.S. and the left wing radicalism in America, but all this kind of stuff going back to those historic cyclical kind of things, right? The old 4th turning, as it's been kind of called. Now, you were absolutely the grandfather of this idea here on the Council of Future Conflicts, that World War III will not just be one big war, but it'll be a series of small regional wars all at the same time. Kind of like the center can't hold, right? And when the world destabilizes, it just destabilizes everywhere, and all the regional enemies just fight each. That really dovetails very nicely into this kind of 4th turning idea. Before I get into this article, any thoughts on that?
No, I think that we discussed this earlier, and the 4th turning is not so much a prophecy as just a pattern of the way history works,
right,
and the way human beings exist. There's an interesting ad that Indian Public Defense put out yesterday, and it shows everyone living a normal life, and it says this peace is an illusion that can be broken at any time. I think that we've forgotten that. This moment of time that we've enjoyed in the Western world is the anomaly in world history. World history is a history of war. And I think that the 4th turning is a convenient explanation just for history the way that it is. And I think that we're seeing such an itching for a world war in Europe because they've just forgotten how horrible it is. It only takes a generation or two for us to forget the horrors that the last one went through.
So rather than just read the article, it's not only is the article a little on the longish side, but it also like has, well, it's not super long, but it has some heavy ideas, and it really relies on this video that's linked at the bottom. And I don't want to have to get into that. Let me just kind of give you some key points here, and also some ideas behind the fourth turning. So the idea of the fourth turning framework, so it's outlined by Howe and Strauss in their book, The Fourth Turning, is a cyclical theory of history where societies experience recurring turnings every 20 to 25 years, each lasting roughly a generation. The fourth turning is a crisis phase characterized by social upheaval, institutional collapse, and transformative change. The current fourth turning began around 2008 with the global financial crisis and expect to culminate around 2030, which, I mean, we're kind of on track for that. Let me just be honest with you. I'm happy it hasn't happened yet, but ultimately, it ain't over yet, boys and girls.
In particular, this conflict has the opportunity to expand into the rest of the world because the diaspora from these countries are literally everywhere, right? Yeah. I could go into Metro Detroit, and Novi and Canton Township is full of Indian people. Dearborn Heights and West Bloomfield is full of Pakistanis. So the potential for conflict between those can happen. We saw this a couple of years ago with the Eritreans and the Ethiopians, right? Fighting all over the U.S. and all over Europe, where their folks have settled, and that just goes more to this whole collection of civil and ethnic conflicts all over the world.
So just to kind of hit the global kind of piece, because the fourth turning has generally been applied to the U.S. model and like in the history of the United States. But I agree absolutely with where Joe's at with this. So the argument in this article is that the fourth turning is no longer confined to U.S., but has gone global, affecting nations around the world simultaneously. Because of the economic instability, geopolitical tensions, and societal polarization, and it becomes global because of things like international organizations, the globalization of the world economy, the centralization of everything behind the U.S. dollar. These kind of tend to drag the rest of the world into U.S. history, basically. When you become the main superpower in the world, everybody else sits up and listen. And let's be honest, it's the tail that wags the dog, right? So the current crisis basically says, so this is kind of where the article kind of hangs its hat, is that it highlights the unraveling of globalization, which policies like the tariffs that disrupt the global supply chains and financial markets, the geopolitical volatility. So we've seen this, such as the U.S.-China rivalry. We've seen the things going on with Russia in Ukraine, and the general destabilization of Europe, and the destabilization of Europe is coming from multiple directions, not just Ukraine and Russia. It's coming from the invasion of Europe by Muslim and African immigrants, and their inability to stand up for their own culture. Societal institutional decay, trust in institutions are rolling, polarized societies, weakening civil cohesion. Let's see. So some historical parallels to this. The same as the kind of the fourth turnings in American history. You've got the Great Depression and World War II were global events. The Civil War happened at a time when you had massive war going on, like in the 1865, the Civil War ends, but in 1871, you've got the Franco-Prussian War, which then blew, Europe was blowing up at the same time too. And it was marked. So each of these was marked by existential crisis that kind of were somewhat linked, but not completely, because we weren't a global society at that point. Let's see. So what do you do, right? You hedge against this kind of stuff, right? So it's the kind of stuff that we said here. You prepare, you make yourself resilient at home, right? You become independent of larger supply chains. You get chickens and you raise them in your backyard, right? You go to classes and understand how to communicate without relying on cell phone towers. It's the decentralization. Anything that's centralized is a weakness for you in a time of all this kind of stuff. And so despite the fact that we've got Donald Trump taking care of us, right, and doing great for us, and hey, everybody doesn't need tactical wisdom books anymore because because Donald Trump's here. We can rest easy. No, it's actually worse than that, because the rest of the world is absolutely getting punched in the face by Donald Trump's. Now, Donald Trump's doing the right thing. I think he has to do what he's doing in order for this to kind of all wash out. But the problem is that it's going to be very traumatic for some of these other countries, and some of them, like I said, the center won't hold, and things are going to fly apart. Let's see. The global scope. So Hal in the article says the global scope of the crisis resembles the worldwide upheaval of World War II, where multiple nations face simultaneous crises, suggesting a shared cyclical dynamic. Now, while the irony is that there was some kind of coordination between countries, but ultimately the entire world got dragged into World War II, whether they were fighting in the war or not. Let's see. We've got generational dynamics involved. Hal's theory relies on archetypes, and Art mentions of prophet leaders like Trump and Xi aligns with this. These figures from the baby boomer generation act as polarizing catalysts, driving bold and often divisive actions to shape the crisis. And this kind of fits that fourth turning model. Younger generations, such as millennials as heroes and Gen X and Gen Z as artists, are poised to rebuild post-crisis. And I guess it's Gen X is the one that are really just going to rip shit up, right? Because we grew up, when we grew up, 5-year-olds still smoked cigarettes. Yeah. Sorry, I just had to get a Gen X joke in there. Inevitable change. So the idea is the fourth turning's core premise is that crises are inevitable and they're driven by systematic weaknesses and generational shifts. The article's emphasis on unstoppable global trends, economic disruption, and geopolitical chaos, institutional collapse supports this. For example, the erosion of globalization and the rise of nationalism affects deep structural shifts, not just temporary setbacks. And Joe, one of the things that we've talked about on this show, and we haven't directly connected it to a globalization of the fourth turning, has been the rise of populist nationalism in other places outside of the U.S. And it coincides with the popularity of Trump in the middle teens and coming into the 2020s. I mean, did it ever kind of occur to you that some of this stuff, while not, we never talked fourth turning about it, but it's definitely linked. Like, that shit's working for them. Why won't it work for us? So they kind of, some of it's copycat. What do you think on that?
I think that whole academic discussion almost put me to sleep. We can just say that chaos is increasing, and that we're returning more to a natural flow of things. I think that we have artificially created this bubble in time, and immigration is one of the problems in this. Let me give sort of my own wonky nerd take on this. That's almost like the one you just went through. When you read the Bible, of course, I was going to bring that up. Yeah. Every time they had massive, uncontrolled, and unchecked immigration in the Bible, it led to war and destruction. The fourth turning isn't new. It's more like the 275th turning, right? And when you look through the Bible's historical accounts, even if you're only using it as a historical account and not a holy book, you will see that about on this same timeline, some sort of cataclysm like this happened. And I think that all of our attempts to say that every culture is equal, every religion is equal, every viewpoint is equal, and every deviant lifestyle is equal, has led us to this point of destruction where we're going to be taught that that's just not the case. And we are our own worst enemies, I guess is what I'm saying. And what the whole gist of that article is that we have created an unsustainable society that was always headed for a collapse. And that's where we are. That was all buried in a whole bunch of academic speak, but that's literally what the article said, right? We created an unsustainable system that is now collapsing upon itself. So I don't think it's any, just like you and I have both said, it's not any grand prophecy thing. It's not a Nostradamus thing. It's really just the way that society works.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think going back to your point, I mean, it's like we can't help but make a society like that. It's like because we're humans. This is what happens when humans interact with each other, and it goes back to like those archetypes, right? You know, it's like, you know, strong men make good times make weak men make bad times make strong men, right? Exactly. It's kind of like this, and you can't help it. And if you drill down in any society, you see this kind of thing.
And we are our own worst enemies, Western society, because we'll say, no, you man who believes your culture is superior, yours is equal to ours. And they're like, no, mine is superior, so I will just kill you. And there's no amount of hopium or love that's going to stop that man from killing you.
Amen, brother. So bottom line up front, we may seem like we're in a bubble of safety right now, but this is a temporary bubble of safety. This is the eye of the hurricane. This is the calm before the storm. And do we know when the storm's coming? We have no idea. That being said, you can guarantee that a storm is coming, and you just don't know how big it's going to be. And you pray it's going to be a short one, not the King Kong of all storms. That's a pretty good spot to put a pin in it, Joe. I think we got a little philosophical there at the end. So
no, it was good though. I mean, I joked about it, but it was good, right?
Yeah,
it is good, important info.
All right. We'll go around the horn on this one. Joe, looking to the week, I mean, clearly India-Pakistan's not over with. Where do you think we're going to go with this?
I'm not entirely sure. I really think that we're going to see 2 or 3 more rounds of this. It's not going to be a one and done on either side, but hopefully cooler heads will prevail and we'll put an end to it. I do know that the Chinese foreign minister came out fairly strongly saying both sides need to back up. But I think if there's any one country neither side will listen to, it's probably China. So somebody else needs to try to bring these guys to the table. And it's probably not the U.S. either, because neither one of them is really inclined to listen to us. The ones who might actually be able to make an inroad here, sadly, is Russia. Sergei Lavrov might have some room to run here. So we'll have to see. But I would watch that. I'd also watch for some Antifa responses to what happened at the University of Washington, as well as we're still waiting for a verdict in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So,
I'm a watcher. Are you there? Thoughts for the week that you want to share with the chat? Guess he's not there. Did he say he's not there? Here's my prediction. I think we're going to get a ton of views on the show after Joe shares the link on X. That's my prediction for the show.
Washer's having mic problems, by the way.
Yeah,
we can hear you.
Like mid-show. Weird.
What's that? Your microphone going down mid-show?
Yeah, no. StreamYard switched to a different microphone in the middle of the show for no apparent reason. Fun.
That's bizarre.
But predictions for the week. Yeah, I think Pakistan v. India is where my eyes are going to be looking, as well as the escalation inside the U.S. The leftists have a pattern of escalation, and these dumb little protests that we can make fun of are the beginning, and they act as a clarion call, as Joe has pointed out. So look for the institutionalized ramping up of leftist violence and action in the streets. They are now going to be seeking targets to agitate over.
Yeah. Well, here's my thing. I think we get one of two responses from Antifa over the next, say, 96 hours, because we're going into, what is it? Tomorrow is the Russia parade and all this kind of stuff, right? Is it the 9th, right? Or is it Saturday? I can't remember.
That parade is tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah. I think over the next 96 hours, Antifa will either do nothing or they'll do something really stupid.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's going to be a whole lot of half measures, and a total fizzle could count as a nothing. So like 3 people show up and then, say some things, then leave. That's a nothing. But because they're indignant. How dare you? How dare you speak out? Like, so the thing that I noted on that story that was weird was the kind of the vehement nature of UW's president making in that public statement, right? Really standing up against that kind of behavior. And so I could absolutely see them attempting to punish UW through more kind of covert, direct action, type action. So we'll see where that ends up landing. The other thing that I think is going to happen is I think Ukraine is going to hit the parade in Russia. I just don't know what that's going to look like yet. I hope it's more of a message like knock, knock, we're still here type of thing versus some sort of attack that actually goes after world leaders. Because God forbid, Ukraine blows up Xi Jinping or somebody like that. Talk about fucking hell on earth. I think it would be off to the races if that were to happen.
Yeah.
All right. And I predict that our show will be on Friday at the normal time. So look.
And I predicted I'll remember to share that one much, much earlier.
Look at you.
See,
I love it. It's like you share it, and all of a sudden the view numbers are like just going up and up and up because it's funny.
Yeah, I forgot this morning. I'm a little out of my element this morning. I'm still recovering from a cold. Oh, yeah. And this woman who lives here claims I'm the one who got her sick.
I do have a bit of a funny to send everybody off if you like, Scott.
Yeah, go ahead.
My CENTCOM told me that the Red Sea keeps eating his FA-18s. So I asked how many FA-18s he has, and he said he just goes to the shelter and gets a new FA-18 afterwards. So I said it sounds like he's just feeding F-18s to the Red Sea, and then his Indo-PACOM started crying.
That's the best Mad Libs I've seen, and that's actually pretty good.
Yeah, so if you don't know, another FA-18 is on the bottom of the Red Sea now because, well, this time it sounds like pilot error. They missed the arresting cable, or maybe the arresting cable broke, which I doubt that. Those things are pretty bulletproof. But let's be honest, anything is likely with the Navy, especially in the current state.
Forward deployed, as long as the Truman has, these things will happen. It's time to swap out carriers, right?
Yeah, those cables are supposed to get swapped out every 200 landings.
Well, and the crew, right? The crew is worn out, beat.
Mm-hmm.
Time to swap them out.
By the way, did you guys see Joe Biden did a interview?
Well, sort of. Jill was there to keep him on track, but yes.
Yeah. So this is. I thought this was interesting. Let me share this.
I'd also hardly call The View an interview.
Well, this doesn't look like the interview. This doesn't look like The View. Let me see what.
I thought it was on The View.
No, this is some sort of news.
Oh, it's a different one. That's not the one I thought of. Never mind.
All right. So this is about Kamala Harris running.
It's a question lots of people ask you. Do you leave it too late? Should you have withdrawn earlier, giving someone else a bigger chance?
I don't think it would have mattered. We left at a time when we had a good candidate. She was fully funded. And what happened was, I had become what we had set out to do, knowing what we could do. I become so successful on our agenda, it's hard to say, I'm going to stop now. I know what I said when I started, that I think I'm prepared to hand this to the next generation, the transition government. But things move so quickly that it made it difficult to walk away. And it was a hard decision. But would I still? No, I think it was the right decision. I think that well, it was just a difficult decision.
But you shouldn't put it in.
Well, I don't think so. I mean, I don't know how that would have made it.
I don't know how that would have made much difference. Like, she's going to lose no matter what I do.
Well,
talk about a vote of confidence.
Poor old man. They're bringing him out.
Yeah.
Let him.
No,
let
you're
him
right.
die.
That's fucking elder abuse right there.
Let the man live
Right.
out his days in peace.
On that note, it's time to end. Thank you, guys. On that note, gentlemen, it is time to end. Thank you guys very much. Chat, you guys were awesome. Appreciate the support in the super chats. Joe, Watcher, and Pete, who was here earlier, thanks for helping me out. We will be back on Friday. If you haven't done it already, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, share the link with your friends. Let them know you're getting some good stuff over here on the Council on Future Conflict. We will be back on Friday, but until then, stay safe.